Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal, I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present. Mostly large sharks. We'll get started right away. Going to head over to the Gulf of Mexico, off of Texas, off Galveston Island. The date, June 15th, 1937. Hal Thompson, 14 years old. He was apparently at night attacked in 4 feet of water. His body was found the next morning in the shallows. It was missing its right arm. Lower right arm, and his right leg was mangled, the thigh was mangled, and the leg had teeth marks going all the way down. It was reported he was alive when he was on shore, but by the time they got him into the hospital, he had passed on. No word on what kind of shark. They didn't mention it in 1937. Put it down as an attack and no attempt to predate. Now we're going to head over to Stewart, which is Martin County, Florida. The date is February 3rd, 2010. Stephen Schafer, 38 years old. He is noticed by a lifeguard that he's laying on his board. He's in an unprotected part of the beach, about a quarter mile out, and he's in 4 to 6 foot waves. And he's just lying there on his kiteboard. So the lifeguard jumps on his board and paddles out. When he gets about 20 yards shy, he can see blood in the water and he can see several sharks swimming around. And so he goes up, pulls Stefan onto his board and takes him in. No telling whether he was alive or not when he got onto the beach, but he didn't end up surviving it. He had a few wounds, defensive probably to his right hand, so he had some lacerations to his right hand. His left buttocks had a couple bites to it, but no removal of flesh, just teeth marks there. And the wound that did him in, he lost 2.5 liters of blood. It bit him in the back of the thigh, so the cut to the back of the thigh was 8 to 10 inches long, and it went all the way down to the femur, and probably split some arteries on the way, and he ended up bleeding out. So that'll be an attack and no attempt to predate. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of Australia, off of Lady Julia Percy Island. The date, November 29th, 1964. Henri Bource. He and his partner, and there's about 12 dozen people out doing some diving. Some are skin diving, some are spearfishing, some are scuba diving, some are taking camera photos, some are visiting the beach. Henri and his partner, they're down and they're swimming with seals and playing with the seals. They get themselves 65 yards away from their boat and 100 yards away from shore, and they're playing with one single bull seal. And they're out there playing with it, and there's a man on the beach. One of the divers is on the beach, and he's paying attention to what's going on in the water, and he sees a fin cutting through the water, heading towards the two divers. He also sees this fin pass up a whole pod of seals and their seal calves that are all playing on a reef right by there. It ignores them and goes straight after Bource. The witness on the beach says it gets 20 yards shy of Henri, and then it disappears underneath the water. Henri's in the water. He is playing with the bull seal, and it swims to the bottom. So he starts to swim down to meet it, and that's when he feels a clamping on his leg that takes him and pulls him right up out of the water. He's out of the water long enough to scream shark a few times to let all the other divers around know there's a shark, and he's pulled down again. He gets pulled down under the water, and now he reaches down with his hand to feel where the shark's head is. And as soon as he gets an idea, he starts trying to kick the eye of the shark with his right foot. He's got his left foot in his left leg is in the shark's mouth, pretty much the calf, and he's trying to kick it with his right leg. That doesn't work, so he's now being dragged further down. And he says it's about 45 seconds after he's been pulled under. His mask and his mouthpiece were both knocked out on the first hit. So he's been holding his breath, and now it's about 45 seconds. And the shark doesn't seem to be wanting to let him go. And then finally he just notices he gets free up to the top of the water, takes a deep breath, and he says he realizes that his leg has just been bit off by the shark. His partner comes over and sees down there that the shark has blood coming from its mouth, so didn't know if it got shot by another diver, spearfished, or, you know, stabbed with the spear, or what had happened, but she didn't know that the shark had his leg in its mouth as it swam to the bottom. It supposedly released the leg because somebody had noticed that it was floating afterwards, but the shark turned around and started coming back. Now, two other spear fishermen that were close, they came to the aid, and they had to use their spears to fend off this shark as it kept coming up and coming as close as it could get. It wasn't being threatening to the two divers, but they had to hit it with their spears so much that it bent their spears trying to fend this thing off. Came back about 5 times, and they kept having to spear it off while they were swimming backwards with Rodney to get him to the boat, which is now on its way over there as fast as it can get there. The boat gets there, they get him up on the boat, and then they decide not to get all the divers out of the water and to get him in to help, and they'll get back to get the divers. So they had radioed ahead so that they had the blood type and everything going. So Rodney had lost his leg below the left knee, and he ended up going right back to diving right after that. A couple of interesting notes on that. The whole time the attack was taking place and afterwards, seals were swimming around the divers, and the shark didn't care. The shark didn't care about these seals at all. The other thing is that I read, can't remember where I read it, but I read that he was in a yellow dive suit instead of the black one. And although that would seem like a good idea around seals, and you aren't going to look like a seal, the studies the Navy did on colors, yellow was the worst one. In the David Baldrige book, it'll get into the studies that the Navy did on the colors and the different reaction from the sharks to yellow, red, black. It's pretty interesting, but they call it yum yum yellow because, you know, it obviously did poorly in their tests. So we'll put that down as an attack, and I'm going to put that down as an attack and an attempt to predate because it kept coming back at him. Again, I think it wanted him and nothing else. So that's our attack on Henri Bource, 29 years old. Okay, now we head over off the coast of Croatia, off Omis. The date, August 10th, 1974. Rolf Schneider, 21-year-old. It is noticed that he's being attacked by a shark, and an Italian tourist, Vittorio Solongini, went into the water and faced off with this huge great white, and took and dragged Rolf back to shore. He had his foot severed, a severed artery, and he was bled out before he even hit the shore. He didn't make it. The shark, they say, is 5 meters long. They tried to launch a search and destroy party for the shark, but they were never able to locate it. So the shark got away with this one. Rolf lost his foot, and we're going to put that down as an attack, no attempt to predate. We're going to finish off our unprovoked attacks off the coast of New South Wales, Australia, off of Coaldale Beach. The date is February 26th, 1966. Raymond Short, 13 years old, he's out in the water. He got out deep enough to where he's just now starting to tread water, and he feels a clamping on his left leg, and then real quick after that he feels a clamp on his right leg. Not knowing what had happened, he just decides to start swimming back to the beach, and when he tries to kick his right leg, he can't move it at all, and he realizes his shark still has it. So real quick he goes ahead and he tries to kick the shark with his left leg, and the shark pulls him underwater real quick, and he gets back up to the top. He decides he's going to punch the shark in the head, so he punches it a few times, but he says the shark just laid there as if it was dead, still with his leg in its mouth, but he's just laying there. Now he's screaming for people to help him, and just as he's screaming for help, the shark sirens start going off and everybody's running into the water. Luckily for him, there's lifeguards making their way out, and a stranger's going to get to him a little bit before them. So the stranger gets out to him and he tells him, "Please, sir, help me. The shark still got me." Well, this guy can't see it. It's murky water to begin with, and now there's blood in the water. So he tries to grab the boy and lift him, but he can tell the weight of the shark is on there. And the boy's like, "Look, please, just reach down my leg and see." So he reaches down the leg and he can feel the shark's head. Just about this time, a few others join him, and the lifeguards. One of them goes to his leg and lifts his leg up so that it exposes the shark's head. So the shark's now head is at, and his leg is at the top of the water, and another lifeguard takes a surfboard and hits the shark a couple times in the head. Shark will not let go. So they all decide they're going to have to carry them both to shore. So they half drag and half carry both of them gently as they can to not hurt the boy up onto the beach. And when they get up there, they said that they pried the shark's jaws open. I don't know what they used to do that, but they got the shark's jaws open, and then they got the boy 300 yards away was the actual hospital he had to go to. So within 10 minutes of the actual attack, he was in the hospital and being taken care of. He ends up surviving this attack. He had some massive wounds that removed most of the muscle from the whole back of his right leg, giving him teeth marks the whole entirety of the leg. On the left leg, he ended up with some lacerations on both front and back of his thigh, and then he had defensive wounds on his hand. They took care of him. Now with the shark, turns out it's an 8-foot 3-inch great white, and not a healthy one at that. They had noticed 2 pretty major bites to the abdomen area. So back by its stomach, it had two of those shark bites to it. So it's missing skin. They said one of them had a hole still. It was so deep that the hole, you could put your finger into it and it would go right into its stomach, which there was actually fish in the stomach, but they didn't think it was able to feed, and that's probably why it hung on like that. It had a third bite that was between the pelvic fin and the caudal fin. So right at the end of the tail, it had another bite there. So I'm sure that its swimming was not doing as well as it was, and this shark was probably not going to make it, even if it was able to consume the boy, it wasn't going to be able to make it. The boy hitting on the shark, that could have been enough to just make it lay there and just hope that it could hang on. I mean, I feel kind of bad for the shark. I'm never, I don't notice those kind of things, but those bites on sharks are brutal. I'm going to put it down as an attack and an attempt to predate. Even though it was unsuccessful, luckily for the kid, it was as wounded as it was, or an 8-foot shark, 8-foot gray white would have had no problem with them. So we'll put that down as an attack, an attempt to predate, and no fatality. Okay, now we're going to finish out our show with What Were You Thinking? We're going to go out to Santa Monica, California, in the summer of 1954. Stuntman Frank Donahue was getting ready to film a shark scene in a movie, and he was deciding he was going to practice. And what he does is he swims up to these sharks, and they say he grabs them and he just flips them up and flips them onto the boat. And he had done this with a few sharks, but he released them afterwards because they were too small, and he finally found the one that he wanted. So he swam up to the shark, grabbed it, flipped it up onto the deck of the boat, and he gets up on the boat and it slips and falls against this shark, and it bites into his elbow and into his arm pretty severely, and he has to go in and get all fixed up by that. But I mean, what are you thinking? How much you getting paid for this movie? It doesn't sound like enough. And you're a stuntman. You guys don't get any of the glory anyway. That just sounds like a terrible job. You might as well go out and become an abalone diver. So that's our story of Frank Donahue, the stuntman. And that's our show for today. I hope I'll see you in a couple more days with another set of attacks. But until then, if you go in that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.